I'm not sure if no questions means we're all awake, or no questions means we're all awake, or we're just shy, or maybe we prefer silence to sound, talking, I don't know. Last time you mentioned, you said something about being happy or at peace for no reason, other than existing. And I've been tuning into that more and more. But the body-mind always needs a reason, either to be happy or to be unhappy. And you come up with, easily to come up with reasons to be unhappy. Usually, more and more, I get this sense of being at peace regardless of conditions. Every so often, I find my buttons getting pushed. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
No, yeah.
Okay. I don't think it's a cultural thing.
No,
But, and it becomes a little starker in my case because a lot of it's fallen away. And there seems to be this core image of wanting to be, self-image, of wanting to be competent or intellectual or smart. But I think it's a reaction based on the fear and the wound of not being smart, not being competent. And anything that comes close to that, it really pushes that button for me. I don't know. So, and I kind of do the inquiry thing, like whose buttons are being pushed, but it seems like a too much of an intellectual exercise for me.
Well, also, it's not necessarily an intellectual question to be asking whose buttons are being pushed. It depends how you pose the question. If you're posing the question out of like a habitual question, or if you're posing the question, you're looking, there's a looking. But also there is the question is, who is it that is competent or not competent? So you see, there are certain characteristics, certain attributes to the body-mind that have certain limitations to them. There are certain body-minds that are quicker at, for example, conceptualizing, others that are more intuitive, some that are drawn to more a visual way of understanding. Others, their understanding is through image mentation. So, and one could say that there is differences among body-minds in terms of their competence in certain situations. There might be certain competence in certain situation and lesser so in a different subject matter, and the opposite for other body minds. And of course there is a gradient, there is a whole spectrum of qualifications that are attributes to the body mind. And so of course, given being placed in a certain environment, the body-mind response will differ from body-mind to body-mind, and the same body-mind will differ in its response from situation to situation as situations changes. So to have like a sort of a sort of a fixed idea about competence that sort of doesn't have situation, doesn't have a gradient to it. It's a gradient to it. Doesn't have a doesn't take the circumstances in consideration. Is not doesn't resonate with how body minds function. You follow? So we might have some ideas about competence that are too fixed, you see. And there are also other aspects to the body-mind, such as the even the health of the body-mind, and of course the nutrition quality of the body-mind. For example, if you just or after lunch, for example, there may be a lot of the blood that's focused on digestion and lesser on in the brain, and so you might find yourself to be less competent at that time of the day than at another time of the day, etc. I think you get the picture of what I'm saying, that there is a gradient of competence to the body-mind, and you have to take that in consideration in your in your evaluation of competence. But also, to contemplate that I am not a body-mind. There is a body-mind manifestation, but I am not a body-mind. I'm the awareness. So there is the body-mind dimension, and there is the dimension of consciousness, of awareness, of presence, of self-knowingness, that it doesn't cannot be looked at from a competence point of view. The competence applies to a totally different realm. But it's the identification, meaning mistaking yourself or forgetting yourself. And in forgetting yourself, there is the identification as a body-mind. There is the impression that I, meaning there's only one true I, one true self, that I am taking on the qualities of the body-mind, and therefore that I am not competent. And so I am striving to become more competent. So in a way, when there is that identification, we overlook that the body-mind qualities do not apply to I, you see. And then we get into the unhappiness and all the emotive states, all the psychological self-judgment, etc. And we do it all to others too, because when we are perceiving ourselves as a body-mind, meaning we're identified as this body-mind composition, we also perceive others via the same lens, via the same lens, and as a result, we are perceiving others as being competent or not competent, etc., as irrespective of circumstances that are known and unknown to us, that may be affecting that other body-mind's performance at that point in time. So once you start to understand that body-minds are have certain variety of qualifications, variety of manners, then you gain an understanding, not just that resonates just for you, but also about others. and you're able to have more understanding about others, and you will find yourself not just less self-judging, but also you will find yourself less judging of others. It's not really happy to be driving your body-mind, to be pushing it. It's not. I mean, I know that culturally we do that. There is this tendency.
I sort of see that same phenomenon in, I can locate it in my physical self fairly easily, in the sense that a certain amount of clamping coming around in here, that is sort of habitual signal of paying attention, and things are going to get worked out because I'm paying attention. But more and more, it's just simply a phenomenon that I'm observing that's happening within consciousness. It's just tightness and doesn't really have much of a purpose. As I look at it and just let it relax, then I get a general kind of deepening. So what I'm really learning is this weird reflex that seems to go on all the time. Now that I see it, it has less control of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very beautiful. Once you start seeing not just the psychological patterns, the thoughts about me, but also as Jack is sharing the physiological aspect of that. Whenever there is any sort of judgment, there is some contraction in the body, and you start noticing that at this phenomenon at the body level, physiologically, and you're able to perceive it from a neutral place of witnessing, in a way, with an understanding that that phenomena is connected to a habitual identification that I am the body, a habitual identification with the body, and therefore, of course, a contraction, because with the identification of with the body comes a diminution, a reduction of the vastness, of the infinity of presence, to a more local field that's sort of bound by the identification. And when you're observing from a witnessing position, you're going to consciousness, you're going to presence, you're going to that which is always perceiving. Because one of the attributes, if you want to use that term, of consciousness is that it's knowing. So it's knowing. It knows the world, body, mind, but it also knows itself. It knows that I am consciousness. It knows that I am conscious, and that I, as consciousness, am conscious. So in religious term, God is self-knowing. God knows the world that it creates, and it knows itself as being the ultimate reality, the one reality. You see? So this knowingness attribute is a witnessing attribute. It's not an identification attribute. It's sort of, it's like you're looking at your dream. You're witnessing your dream. You're witnessing your night dream from a uninterested, unaffected, undisturbed place. And it does not mean you're not having fun. You're actually having a lot of fun. You have a lot of fun. If you just look at the greenery of the spring, you know, those leaves and all the shades of green that just somehow, you know, it's amazing. It's really amazing. You could just, like, you know, really trip, you know, on end on just looking at those leaves. You see. So there is an enjoyment in the manifestation. There is a sweetness and a curiosity with a marvel, a sense of marveling. Yes. So because it's ever fresh from moment to moment. It's fresh. Every moment is a fresh. Yes, it has freshness like a spring. When you are at the spring, I don't know if you've ever gone to it's spring like this. It's just fresh. It's just freshness across the board. It's nothing like it. It's astounding. You see. So that's really what our experience is, as consciousness. It's ever freshness. And so it's true that from the mind level, it's like sort of repeating, what's happening to me, what's going to happen to me, why did I do this, why did he or she say that to me, what is happening to my body, what's happening to my money. It's true that there is that, but that, as you are contemplating consciousness, meaning presence, meaning the magnificence of beingness, that becomes less and less interesting, and less dense. It becomes thinner and thinner, and less frequent. So you are moving in the right direction when the unhappy stories about me, my family, my life, my future, my health, when these unhappy thoughts and feelings, they diminish, and their intensity or their duration and density is less and less.
It's funny, sometimes I have to almost strain to remember who I think I am. What am I happy about? I can't forget. Let me give me some time, I'll conjure it back up.
Yes. It's a habit. We have a habit to go to I am this person, I'm this person. And it's really beautiful when you get to a place where you just are. There is just beingness, and you don't even know that you're Richard, or until somebody says Richard, you say, oh yeah, okay, yeah. Because you only need that suit in certain situations, in certain situations. But even when you remember that, okay, this body-mind is Richard, you don't forget that you are awareness and you are consciousness. At some point, it will stabilize as that. You will never leave consciousness. Consciousness will never leave you. There is a knowingness that sort of settles, that no longer gets pulled away from itself.
Yeah, so that addresses all the negative qualities of the body-mind. But then you can encounter situations in which can either be shocking to you, or it can be affecting the body-mind, I'm sure. But if the situation, I'll take this one little, seeing a child, for example, being outpowered in a negative fashion in front of your eyes, in a sense, it has an effect. So what has it an effect on? I'm sure it has an effect on the body-mind. But nevertheless, there are things that we can see, TV, in front of our eyes. That is that has an effect. it has an effect on the body-mind, but nevertheless,
You see, the cellular level, the body-mind is constantly dancing and shifting and changing, and at night it just tapers
you just see it
down.
and then you pass on and you move on in a sense.
Yeah, the body-mind doesn't register that many things really. It registers, but it doesn't hold on. It doesn't turn it into a story. It is this imagined me character that is associated with stories. So we may witness something really awful, I remember, years ago I witnessed it was an accident, a street accident. I witnessed a street accident. I was just standing and I saw a really awful accident. And at the time I was like, oh my God, look what happened, And 10 minutes later, I was sobbing. I had a sobbing. So I was just sobbing. And then after that, it was sort of tapered off, That was a very strong experience that the body-mind had. So in general, the body-mind doesn't have that many strong experiences. There are, as you mentioned, experiences that affect the body-mind, but it doesn't last that long, you see. But what is it that flips the story over and over? Why did he do this? Why did she do this? And this shouldn't have happened. Oh, abusing children is no good, etc., etc. That goes on and on, in our life, and then it connects with other things. Oh, the politicians, they should have done something about this, and they should have put a red light here, whatever. You see, that's not the physiological. That's not just the normal, natural state of the body. That is the result of the me. There is a me identity and others. Me and others. Now, and that goes on. That is the psychology, and that is the confusion and the unhappiness. You see, because there is judgment of others. When we're judging others, there is judgment, and when there is judgment, there is unhappiness, because we are basically separating ourselves. There is a separation in judgment. Whether we're doing self-judgment or a judgment of others, we are separating ourselves. We are being ignorant, because there is no separation. Consciousness is wholeness. So ignorance is executing a separation where there is no separation. You see? So it's a tear, and then there is a call to reunite. That call to reunite, we experience that as some angst, in our body. We want the unhappiness to end, because we want the wholeness. We want to come back to our natural state. I mean, I'm speaking in relative terms, because the natural state, meaning wholeness, consciousness, is never really separate. There's no such thing. I'm talking about having an unhappy dream, about experiencing a thief that's hiding behind your door while it's just a bush, while it's just And so we live in the house. We never leave the house. We always lock the door, because there is a thief. We imagine a thief is outside of our door.
But I can identify with this thing you said. It's a tear. It's like a tear, immediate tear, as your sympathy, your compassion goes out to...
No, compassion is not a tear.
No, but what's compassion goes out.
Yeah, I was talking about...
You see something like your accident.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of breaks you into, you said, it's you like two. It is, I feel, kind of a tear in the wholeness of who you are. That's what I thought.
Well, no, I didn't. Maybe I should say it different way because I think I was not clearly
Because
understood.
you are affected by what you see. But I'm not talking about that it goes up in your head continuously, blah blah blah. It's not that. It's
Well,
this instant.
when you overeat, the body has indigestion. It feels, and then after a couple of hours, you're okay. You see, if you stub your toe, then there is an ache, and then after an hour, whatever, 10 minutes, you're okay. In the same way, when you perceive, some event, it's you perceive it. There is a certain time frame to that, and then it's gone. But when we make a story about me and the world, me and them, that's what I meant by the tear. That's really what is the unhappiness. But it always starts with myself. I perceive myself as this person. You see, when I perceive myself as this person, then there are a whole package of thoughts that keep coming about me. How am I doing? What's happening in my life? Am I alone? Am I moving in the right direction? Am I making the right decisions? Am I getting wealthier? Am I getting healthier? How am I in my car? How is my father? How is my grandmother? Etc. It all comes with that, and it's not peaceful.
Is sadness just also a quality?
Sadness.
Sadness.
There may be sometimes some recollections, that arise to you. Somebody who's dear to you that passed. And you feel, you recollect them and you recollect the enjoyment and the love and the sweetness that you had with them. And so there's a little sadness in that. But it's not the unhappiness. It's just there is a tender sadness. It's a recollection of the love that you shared, which is different from being sad because something has happened to you. You see, something bad that has happened to you.
Could sadness be uncaused? Simply
Uncaused.
Uncaused,
right?
Mm-hmm. Without referring to anything in specific.
No. There's
So
always
memory.
something that arises. Sometimes I used to have, and less now, some recollection of my mother. Actually, I still do on occasion when I talk about her. A recollection of my mother, and there's a sweet sadness about just that arises when that memory arises. Meaning that thought, that current thought, because memory is a current thought that arises. But in the recognition of what I am truly, meaning in the recognition that I am awareness, I am this formless presence, that you cannot see it with your eyes, you cannot measure it with a tape measure, but yet you know yourself, you know that I am, you know that I am aware. With the deepening understanding that I am awareness and not a body-mind, there are lesser and lesser until there are no more causes. There is no more causes. There is no more cause and effect. It's just the delight of being. The light of being. And the entire waking dream, working, driving, whatever it is an expression of the light of being in this current experience. Then the tendencies, habitual tendencies, to be engaging as a person. Where am I going? When am I going to get there? What's going on? How come there is this? How come there is that? Those tendencies, they will arise less and less. And they're recognized to be really uninteresting, flat party poopers. So there's a delight that is not dependent on the circumstances.
And I'm saying this really clearly because I've had this realization here before, because the difference is that I'm not trying to talk myself into, well, things are really better or whatever. It's like, maybe I've still got contraction and so forth, but the bigger picture is that there's this sense of being alive and awake. And so, okay, the contraction's still there, and that's sort of interesting, and I can't just sort of wish it away. I'm watching it. But at the same time, there's this sort of joyfulness. It's almost like, wow, it's like, let's dance around. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. In a way, the contractions that we experience in our life we choose them. We still have a little yes. We're still saying a little yes to them. We're still saying a little yes to I have to do this or else. Or there's still we're still entertaining that conversation to a certain extent. So it's really important to over and over understand that this conversation, that conversation about me, is unhappy for me and for everybody else. There is no gain. If I have a client, for example, yes, I have a client, and I'm entertaining a me conversation, what I have to do to please him and so on, I must do this, and I'm experiencing the fear, the anxiety, the worry, all of that. That's not good for him. That's not good for the client. Not only it's not good for you, it's not good for the client. If it's going to make you work harder but you carry the unhappiness, though, the fear, that's not going to be good for the client. It's not going to be good for the client. Now, of course, there is a responsibility when you commit yourself to a certain task. You honor that responsibility and you do your best to live according to the promises that you've made in terms of the work that you promised to perform and the time frame that you promised to perform. You do your best. But and that in itself creates a certain energetic, gathers the energy to meet the deadline and to do the work. But what I'm talking about is not that way of being responsible. patterns where you feel that something is going to happen to you. Maybe it's not even verbalized. Maybe you're not even aware of it. So you have to look at it. You have to look, and in your body is the best place to look. You will experience some fear or some contraction, which is different from the energy that's needed to work. You will experience some contraction, some fear that you don't want to look at, but it's there. And that fear is that something is going to happen to me. Nothing's going to happen to me. If I look at it, I realize nothing's going to happen to me. But it's something picked up from older patterns we picked up, maybe from school, from parents, friends, whatever. And we carry them in our life. We continue with, oh my God, what's going to happen to me? What am I going to lose? I'm going to lose something. Something I have to hold on, you see, that sort of tendency. Now that tendency, of course, is unhappy, but is also equally unhappy for your client. It is not a service for your client to be perceiving them as the big bad wolf or whatever. That is not loving, and whatever is not loving cannot bear the fruit and the perfume of love, you see?
That's something interesting. Whenever I give something my full attention, there's a quality of affection in it. It seems to drive out the self-regard stories.
Yeah.
And so even if it's something boring at work, if I give it my full attention, boredom leaves. I don't know why,
Yeah.
but it just does. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yes. So, attention, in a way, you could say that consciousness is ever, I don't use the term attentive, is ever awake, ever present, ever being. So I usually use the term attention in terms of focusing on an object, on a task. There is more of a focus in attention. At least the way I use the term attention, in these conversations. So when we are crossing a bridge, those bridges, walking across a bridge, or even driving across a bridge, there is a certain attention on that particular task, which is different from recognizing presence, the recognition of presence, meaning presence recognizing itself, because there is it's less concentrated, it's more diffuse, but all-encompassing. You see, it's effortlessly. You see, it's effortlessly.
Yeah, that's the quality.
Yes. So it's more of an interest. You become interested. You see, in what is going on, and so it's like a purposeless interest. It's not an interest with a personal gain in mind. It's just an interest because this is what's happening. Yeah.